Alright, so Season 6. I have a feeling this video isn't going to be as long as the last 3 at least, and is at least going to stop the trend of every video getting shorter than the last. Not that Season 6 isn't interesting to talk about. It is. Every season of Once Upon a Time is. I just think it's the least in that regard. It's not boring. It's the most boring season. Once Upon a Time as a show is never boring. Season 6 is a weird reputation. Now, Season 5 is the most hated. But Season 6... well, I'd say Season 4 is the most divisive. Season 6, I think most people just find it as a boring chapter which no one really cares for. What do I think of it? Okay, I guess. The title of this video might imply that I think there's something more. And the thumbnail may imply that I think it's something less, but honestly, it's not good, but it's not terrible either. Compared to the last 2 seasons, it's weeks above, especially the first half. Which, that's another thing to note. The last 3 videos, the Season 3, 4 and 5 videos, were all split in 2, with half a video being about the first half, and the other half being about the second half. This is because they were clearly split in 2 in the season order. Both different stories, both different stories, and they both different stories, and they switch between the 2. So half of it is about one story, half of it is another one. They're clear, distinct seasons, which are basically their own mini arcs. Season 6? Kind of iffy. I was debating whether I should, because, the first 2 halves do have, the 2 halves of, reoccurring different villains, slightly different plot lines, but most of the time, for example, Emma's arc of, the savior, the final battle, the running up, all that kind of stuff, they're all the way through the season. They all last. These 2 halves don't feel distinct. Tougher than the rest could be considered a mid-season finale, but honestly, it just leads us into the second half. That's kind of what Season 5 does too, but those 2 halves are distinctly different. This is distinctly not, so, I'm ready to talk about this, because Season 6 is interesting with its pros and cons, and on rewatch I learnt a lot about it. So, let's do this. So as usual, let's start with a little recap. Sorry if I sound so angry, I just watched the finale. So, after getting locked up in the Land of Untold Stories, Mr. Hyde turns out to have some beef with Rumple, and in a deal where he agrees to wake up Belle, to find a way to help Belle wake up from the sleeping curse, he apparently owns Storybrooke now, even though Gold didn't own Storybrooke and he had no authority to give it to him. Okay, now, there we go. So of course, now let's start the actual season. So after a trip to the underworld and all that, they decide to deal with that, who has brought everyone from the Land of Untold Stories with him. The Land of Untold Stories is established to be a world where everything pauses. Although this isn't really expanded upon that much, they don't say, like, is it just a world where everything's boring? Because everything would need to be boring, but Hyde apparently has been a tyrannical ruler there for ages. So it's kind of weird, but small potatoes, I guess. So, after that, they quickly lock up Hyde, making it look like the easiest thing ever. While Rumpel goes to wake up Belle by going into her dreams, and then he sees his son, who will be important later on, who is dressing up to disguise, as it is his dream realm too, because Belle is pregnant. How is he dreaming of his future self as an adult? Never mind. Get to this later. So, they all are done. After some... Meanwhile, Emma is seeing visions of the future. She goes to an oracle for help, and then to hide, but she won't let out of jail, so it doesn't go very well. I mean, I like this, but she starts taking therapy from Archie, and while she's seeing visions of her death, and the oracle tells her that's the only thing that will stay the same. She can change the journey, but she can't change the destination, basically. And she talks to Archie about this, but doesn't tell her family yet. Meanwhile, we find out that the Serum Queen is still alive. Well, we don't find out, we already found out, but the characters find out that the Serum Queen is still alive, even after Regina crushes her heart. But by the way, even though everyone in the show calls her the Evil Queen, the fandom for the most part calls it the Serum Queen, and I genuinely think it's a better name for it because the Evil Queen is kind of confusing. So I'm going to be calling her the Serum Queen for this review. Now, the Serum Queen later teams up with Hyde to get revenge on the heroes, and he threatens Belle even though the Serum Queen's in a deal, so she can't hurt Belle, who is still broken up with Rumpel and is currently living on the Jolly Roger. And as Hook is getting ready to move in with Emma, Belle is now living on the Jolly Roger alone. So yeah, they get the Jolly Roger. So yeah, that's it then. So after this, Hyde decides Rumpel tries to kill Hyde with a serum, but it doesn't happen, as the other selves, the evil selves, the artificial selves, can't be killed. And whatever hurts them, hurts the original too. Now, and vice versa, it seems. And now, until they find out that Hyde, well, he can get killed by killing Jekyll, as Hook is forced to kill Jekyll when Jekyll is trying to kill Belle. I know a lot of people don't like the Jekyll and Hyde arc. I honestly never seen why. I love it. I think it's a really good nature versus nurture story. And Jekyll and Hyde, they develop them really well. And it's believable, very believable, when we find out that Jekyll still has darkness in him after all. Can never get all of it out. It's a nice reveal, and while it doesn't lead to much with Regina and stuff, and it's a little let down by well, what comes after. I still think it's really good in time, even though it only really lasts 6 episodes. Wow, does it really feel like more? That they appear in more episodes. It still feels like they appear in more than that episodes. Now we've done that, let's get into the next portion of reviews, which is like the Savior stuff with Aladdin and all that stuff. So the Oracle is found dead by Emma and Archie, and a woman gets arrested for her murder. People actually get arrested in this town? Okay. And as this goes, it reveals that this woman is Princess Jasmine of Agrabah, who is looking for Aladdin, who in this world is the savior. Weird choice for a savior kind of character, but okay, I guess. Did it really take this long to integrate Aladdin and Jasmine into the show? Wow. So Emma thinks that if Aladdin is still alive, then that means the Oracle is wrong, that saviors don't always die. So she tells Archie that, but it turns out Archie isn't Archie, it's the Serum Queen in disguise, wanting to know what happens to what's happening with Emma after it's revealed she's the one who killed the Oracle. Duh, right? So they go and find Aladdin, and all hope seems lost until he reveals himself. It is revealed that he's been hiding in Storybrooke this whole time as just a common thief. And that while he was the savior, he used the Shears of Destiny to erase it before it happened. So he didn't have to be the savior anymore. Then escaped to the enchanted forest and got overtook by the evil queen's curse. I really like this because it proves that, well, we can do this. And before people ask, how have we never seen him before? He's been in Storybrooke all this time. We don't see everyone in Storybrooke. Shut the hell up. We don't see the whole small town, even then. So be quiet now. Okay. So Emma decides to destroy the shears, so she sends Hook to do it, but Hook doesn't destroy the shears until he does. He throws them into the water, but the Serum Queen catches them and gives them to Rumple, who has a deal what the evil queen is out of is romance. Okay, first of all, if you were a Golden Queen ship, and that's what the ship is called, is this what you wanted? Because this isn't even like, because this is like Regina, the Serum Queen, which is basically a separate character from Regina, and I'm pretty sure you wanted Regina and Gold together. So I don't think even shippers of this ship could agree that this was done well, even if they will be celebrating their favourite ship becoming canon. But where did this come from? Where is the chemistry? They have more teacher-student chemistry. They keep telling us there's chemistry, but there isn't. When has it ever been implied that either of them have feelings for each other? Never! Never ever. And it's so random, it's not even necessary for the plot. The Evil Queen will get anything out of it. Like, an alliance with Rumpel will help her against the heroes, and she knows that. You don't need to add a half-assed romance into this. You just don't. Well, yeah, I have been a little positive in this review. This is my first big rant, and again, it's just like the pros and cons season you've all been waiting for, I guess. So, yeah, the Serum Queen decides to finally get revenge on Snow and Charming. This time by having them come to her and choosing to take and telling them they have to sacrifice all of Storybrooke just for them. Now, yeah, that's it. They try to find another way, but they can't, and they decide to, well, stop it. They decide to actually take whatever the Serum Queen has coming, and it turns out she's casting a sleeping curse, which will make it so one is awake, the other will be asleep, so they'll never be together. Now, they struggle to get out a while, and after incessant trips inside the mirror, like, that's it. The Serum Rumpel is trying to use the shears to stop his son from hating him, so Belle thinks he's going to speed up the pregnancy. At the very last minute, he changes his mind because it's not what Belle would want. But this doesn't last long, and he simply can't give in. So, yeah. Seriously now. And then the Serum Queen decides to speed up Belle's pregnancy anyway, which Belle goes to Satan Incarnate, aka the Blue Fairy, to protect her child for some reason. But Rumpel is the only one in the universe who doesn't trust the Blue Fairy, so he's angry with her for this, especially when the baby gets taken by the Black Fairy, who is revealed to be Rumpel's mother. Yeah. Okay. I'm not 100% sure there's a need to pause here, but I just want to say, after this, we have now come up to episode 10. And episodes 10 and 11 are probably two of the most infamous episodes of the show. With mostly good reason. So strap in! So they go. So Emma finds the sword from her visions, and she gets the sword and fighting the Serum Queen with it. She realizes that the sword can actually hurt her without Regina. The Serum Queen becomes desperate and decides to steal the genie's lamp, which Aladdin is now in it, so they could get back to Agrabah. However, this ends up so she wishes Emma was never the savior, and this does not change reality, but it sends her to another one where, yeah, she was never the savior, the curse was never cast, they defeated the evil queen, sorts. And in this universe, Henry was still born. Apparently Neil still came there, which makes no sense. And Emma is just a happy, regular old princess. Snow and Charming never taught her anything. Yeah, just don't question it. Regina realizes that because her and the Serum Queen are the same person, she also has control over the lamp. So she makes a wish to be sent to the same place Emma was sent to. Which, as it works, she gets a lot of stuff. As it works, Regina tries to help Emma remember, but she can't. She gets help from the Wish Rumpel, but then, yeah, but that doesn't help either. Now, yep. So these two. So instead, she invades the inauguration of Henry, and like the day Henry becomes a knight, and Snow and Charming and she kills Snow and Charming trying to make Emma remember. But when Wish Henry comes in, Regina cannot hurt him and goes on the way. Now, at the end of the episode, Regina sees Robin, who apparently in this universe is just a regular thief, which doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so they stop their chances of getting back home because Regina sees Robin, so they decide to find another way. But Regina's too obsessed with Robin, so she goes and get her, and he follows on. Meanwhile, while all this has happened, David has tried to go too far with the whole stuff. So yeah. And he wishes the evil queen will get what she deserves. And it turns out Rumpel and Belle's son, captured by the Black Fairy, has now came back with a vengeance. He's the one Emma is supposed to be fighting, and he comes in to kill her. Of course, it doesn't work, and yeah, so they have to do more than that, especially to see. So that was the first half of the season, and that's the cliffhanger they leave us on. Now, this is usually the part where I talk about the characters and then the lead us into the second half, but as I said at the beginning of the video, I'm not going to do that today. While these seasons are totally different, the plotline about Emma continues in both halves. And I do think the second half is significantly worse than the first half. So while I've been at least semi-positive, at least more positive than I was in my last two videos in this series, I am going to be much more critical of the rest of the season, especially the last two episodes. And yeah. So let's just continue. So Gideon tries to suck the magic out of a blue fairy, and commands Rumpel, who is trying to protect him, not to stop him. And instead he does it for him. Meanwhile, Regina bringing Robin back causes more damage than it causes, as Regina keeps trying to force him to be someone he isn't. When him and Zelina try to leave the town because a protection spell is put up, even though they leave Storybrooke all the time, fine, without this protection spell, let's just ignore that. The snake, which the evil queen turned into, turns back. There wasn't really that much of a point in her being a snake. So when she wakes up, her plan is to separate her and Regina. But when she does that, Regina... Okay, it's not very clear what she does. She like combines the two sides. So she's got a bit of a negative side, and the Serum Queen's got a bit of a good side, which is kind of strange, but we just go for it anyway, I guess. I don't know what's going on in this show. So after that, Gideon is apparently done trying to kill Emma. So he tries to get her to kill the Black Fairy. So he sends her to the Dark Realm, but betrays her and leaves her to die by spiders. At the very last minute, she is saved by Gold, and Emma thinks Gideon is beyond help, but Rumpel disagrees and says he will not treat her well if she comes after us. Meanwhile, again, obviously they have to wrap up the Snow and Charming or asleep while the other one's awake plotline. So Regina keeps looking for cures, magical cures to prevent it, but never finds one. She's supposed to be an excellent man, but she never finds one just because plot. And yeah. So when she finally finds a cure, they don't use. They decide to use it on Emma and Hook, who is trapped in Neverland after Gig said to the jet. Did I mention that Hook wasn't Storybook? Did I mention that? Did you lose anything by mentioning that? So how do they actually break the curse? Well, through the power of friendship, of course. Everyone in the town goes under the sleeping curse, and we think that will be enough to break it, because it doesn't make much sense. Let's just get on with the full plot already. So the Black Fairy tries to start an alliance with Zelina, but this ends up being a misdirect, and Zelina sees it as she tries to connect a thing by using her magic. Zelina decides to prevent this by destroying her magic. I mean, wow. Okay, we'll talk about this when we get to the characters, but this is a great episode, and probably Zelina's best episode in my eyes. Anyway, it turns out the Black Fairy has Gideon's heart. So no, Gideon did not do these things all by himself. Now, which makes Rumple and Belle happy for now, until a lot of stuff happens. Like, So it turns out the Black Fairy wanted to protect Rumple. She never meant to give him up. The Blue Fairy just sent her to another realm after she sealed his fate of becoming, after she broke his fate of becoming the savior. Yep. Yep. That's what happens. Now, so, since they still think Rumple is the savior, Rumple tries to kill her, but he decides to back out at the last minute without other people knowing. This means apparently that Emma and Hook can go ahead with their wedding. They find out that Rumple didn't kill the Black Fairy anyway, and she casts another curse, which this happens. Nothing else happened in the episode where Emma and Hook get married and the curse is cast. Nothing else happened. It is just about that. Okay? So, that's most of season 6. And now we go on to the finale, which in my opinion is terrible. I honestly struggle to think which one is worse, this or season 5. And if you've seen that video, which not many people have, to be fair, then you know how much I hated that finale. I talked about it for very long, and now this part 1 and part 2 is just awful. Let me just tell you why. So Henry, who, unless I'm mistaken, I haven't mentioned this entire review, wakes up in a world in which, after season 1, Emma was the only one who believed him, and no one's there, there's no Mary Margaret, David, and Regina was replaced with Fiona, who is the Black Fairy. Emma is in a mental hospital, because she once believed that what Henry is real after he ate the apple turnover. Now, okay. Yeah, meanwhile, the others are in the realms which are breaking apart. The Black Fairy is trying to stop Emma from believing, even though she had full control of the curse, so she could just make her not have believed anyway. And apparently her not believing is causing the realms of story to break apart. Why? Since when has Emma had this much fucking power? Why does this... And they see this by going inside Jefferson's hat. The hat was destroyed, but he's a hat, he had all of them. Wait, what? Did they rewatch anything? him having one hat was part of his entire backstory. It's why he could never get back. So they all go inside the hat, despite, again, them definitely not rewatching the old seasons, because it was very established that to go in, to go back. It's dumb. Like, seriously, what is this? So everyone has to escape their realms because, like, everyone's dying, but we all know it's just gonna get done in the end. This is just all fucking unnecessary. Why does the Black Fairy even care about this anyway? I guess she wants, like, ultimate power. So that's why she wants all the realms to disappear. Again, if Emma's belief is did Emma's belief tangling all the realms together doesn't make sense. So it had to be because of the curse. That also doesn't make sense. Because how would you implement the... Breathe, Patrick. Breathe. 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 So, Henry tries to stop the Black Fairy from making Emma believe, but by taking Emma out and trying to prove to her that it exists. Emma doesn't really relent, and the Black Fairy tells her to burn the book. Emma doesn't. The Black Fairy pushes Henry down the stairs, and the Black Fairy claims it's because of her belief. So, she can't. She doesn't do this. So, Emma burns the book, and thus is really coming to destroy the realms. And she's about to leave Storybrooke and go to Boston. But then she reads Henry's book, and apparently that makes her believe, like, lots of stories, and reads them, and she believes and all that, which fixes the realms. Meanwhile, while all this is happening, Rumpel decided to keep himself waking up because he actually doesn't trust his mother, and that's what he gets because Belle isn't there and he's stuck in a world where Belle left him, which is kinda dumb, which he doesn't like. So he kills the Black Fairy, which breaks the curse, but she has already commanded Gideon to kill the Saviour, which she can't do because only light can kill light, which doesn't make any sense, because how would Rumpel kill the Black Fairy if dark can't kill light? How would Aladdin kill Jafar? The Saviour law they set up and continued with only 3 episodes ago is contradicting this. It's contradicted by this episode. By this fucking finale. So Gideon fights Emma. And of course, like it said in the prophecy, she dies. But we all know she's going to be okay. So how is she okay? We can't end it like this. So Henry wakes her up via True Love's kiss, which has never been shown to wake someone up before, from death. Obviously by sleep or something. Was it established early in the episode that David was there? So what is my problem with this? Love is the most powerful magic in the world, but Emma is definitely dead. It's never been shown to bring back the dead. Now, honestly, there is a way this could have worked. I am serious now. I'm just gonna make a comparison, but which might make people angry, so before I do it, I'm just gonna say, fuck the person who made this. But in Harry Potter, obviously, Harry dies. Harry looks to be dead in Deathly Hallows, but it seems only the Horcrux part of him died. I think that a way to do this which could have worked is it only killed the Saviour. The Saviour died, Emma didn't. It wouldn't really contradict anything in the season, which it does, which this does, and it would honestly be a good ending to the show. This burden of the Saviour is not Emma anymore, but it doesn't seem like that's what's happening. I mean, you can kind of add headcanon because, like, Emma's never shown to do any magic or anything after this, but if this was their intent, then they would have definitely shown it. I would have actually liked that. I would have actually enjoyed that. It would have been something interesting. This is just boring, you know? It's what you'd expect. It's just the most generic thing ever. It's the worst resurrection of the show, if you can even call it that. But we aren't even done with the stupid things in the finale, because it gets worse. It gets worse than this. Yep, that's right, guys. The final battle apparently makes Gideon a baby again for some reason, and then they all live happily ever after, I guess. Like, seriously. So, Gideon being a baby is awful. Why? Well, simple. There's no reason for this to happen. It's never explained why. It's just random and out of nowhere. It doesn't explain what happened. And there's just no reason for it. I know we will be incredibly fucking traumatized, but that's really the issue of giving Gideon back his heart and Rumple and Bell looking after him. Rumple and Bell actually raising a child just makes this entire second half of the season feel pointless. Actually, both endings kind of make the season feel pointless. Emma looking for ways to avoid death. She avoided death anyway. Rumple and Bell trying to stop their son from getting in trouble. It's like their son was just born. And says like the news story is over. What are you talking about? Oh my god, this is so bad. The finale is terrible. And now, while this video is probably 45 minutes long, you're probably wondering, hey, Patrick, is this video really going to be shorter than the last three? I don't think I will spend an hour, 5 minutes talking about the characters, but I'll try. I might try. First, of course, we have Emma, who, like a lot of characters, has improved since the last two seasons. In the last two seasons, I just thought she was a boring, generic Paragon protagonist, far removed from her characterization in seasons 1 through 3, where she was basically the opposite of that. A reluctant hero who had trouble finding her destiny. Now, she still lingers over that here, over the bad part, but I honestly think it works much better for her here due to her character arc of trying to accept her death. Now, as I said, this could have went for a really good character arc where she realizes her destiny is gone, just as she was starting to get used to it. But we don't really get that. I also really don't she's arrogant for a lot of the season, but I think that fits with her character. There are a few downsides because, again, there are still some lingers of seasons 4 and 5 Emma in here. Also, her relationship with Hook is at the worst. And honestly, when I first watched season 6, I just was annoyed at Hook for this. But honestly, there is barely any communication at all in that relationship in this season, and not just on just them aside in general. Obviously, her hiding the fact that she might die. She didn't know for sure, and she was trying to figure it out, but it's still kind of shitty. Okay, I'm not going to prosecute her that much for that. But in general, I don't really like her that much. But she's still much better than she was in the last 2 seasons. And then we have Regina, which, contrary to Emma, is probably the worst she's been since, well, I don't know, ever maybe? Because she was probably one of the best parts of seasons 4 and 5. Not because the show treated her well, but because Lana Parrilla is a treasure. I actually found Regina a lot more enjoyable on this 3rd viewing than I did on my 2nd viewing. But here, it's a little inconsistent. First of all, I like her friendship with Emma. Her being single without Robin is just being incredibly clear. Like her romance with Wish Robin was incredibly stupid and fucking pointless, and it just made Regina look incredibly fucking shallow and desperate. Which obviously she lost Robin and she's been through a lot, but come on. And her blaming Zelina, even though Zelina saved her, well, yes, I thought their reunion and them suddenly becoming loving sisters was forced. Forced fight isn't the way to stop that. Just make them realize that they're not ready. Like, we'll talk about Zelina later and how I love her this season, but Regina and Zelina's reconciliation this season doesn't come out of nowhere, but I still don't like it in general. Regina's still enjoyable, and Lana Parrilla is still great in the role. I don't think she's a bad character this season. She just has quite a few issues which prevent her from being as enjoyable as she was before. Okay, I said season 5 was the weirdest portrayal of RuPaul, but it might be topped by season 6. The first half is all about condemning RuPaul, of how awful he is, with him clearly being presented as one of the bad guys they have to fight. While the second half portrays him really sympathetically and portrays him as someone trying to do his best to be good for his child and for his wife. It doesn't really flow naturally though, because these things conflict so damn much. I talked about how much I hated his romance with the Serum Queen earlier, so I won't really go over that here. It's just a bit confusing because I don't know what their intent with Rubble was in Season 6. Are we supposed to like him or hate him? What makes this character enjoyable is still Robert Carlyle. And I know, and I don't mind his haircut. A lot of people I know don't like his haircut. I don't mind it. I don't think it makes much of a difference. I do kind of like how protective it is of Gideon, but it doesn't fit with the first half where he was clearly going too far with it. It just annoys me sometimes. Hawk is primarily useless, but still gets a lot of screen time this season. Again, there's a lot of stupid relationship problems where he lies to Emma about having the shears, or they just make up after he doesn't do it. So him taking the shears was incredibly fucking pointless. Like, he could have thrown the shears into the water straight away, and the story would be mainly unaltered. It was just used to create short-term conflict to kick off his subplot, which doesn't really have anything to do with anything either. It leads to a thing later in the season. The subplot makes no sense anyway. Neither of them do. We see that the subplot, these flashbacks, should take place during the Dark Curse, even though during the Dark Curse, Hulk would have been frozen in time. Also, I think this is mentioned, but what isn't talked about... That's talked about. But what isn't talked about is him killing David's father. Hulk should be in Neverland at that point, or be years old, because David was a child. So Hulk should either be in Neverland at this point and be 50 years old. Also, this is before Tinkerbell was in Neverland, so Hulk and Tinkerbell would have never met by Season 6 logic, especially because we see Tinkerbell in a flashback as well after the entire thing with Regina, which is also contradictory. Season 6, well, obviously not being the worst season, is the worst season in terms of continuity. And it isn't interesting whatsoever. It kind of pays off what happened in Season 5, but it still isn't interesting. I might talk about this more later, because I'll get to the secondary characters, but I can't ramble on about individual characters for too long, which I probably have already done, but there we go. Snow and Charming, like Emma, are two characters also greatly improved by their Season 4 and 5 characterization. Season 4, they did absolutely nothing in the first half other than moan about Emma. In Season 4B, they did something really unlikable, stupid, and out of character. In Season 5, they didn't really do much, but have their other stuff going on. It was an improvement, but not by that much. Here, I really like their story arc. They feel like they're back in the spotlight with all the stuff to do with, well, the sleeping curse. It's an interesting idea, and I think it's played off well. It's useful to the plot also because it facilitates an incident because the Serum Queen finally gets it. I don't really like how they immediately put in marital problems at the end of the season, but overall they're much better. Okay, so I've hyped this up. If you've seen my previous two reviews, which for Season 4, which for the Season 5 video, that's unlikely, but you know that I hate Zelina. I think she's an awful character. But this season, whenever I watch it, it kind of changes my mind about that. because season 5 Zelina feels like season 2 Regina, where she's right on the cusp of being good, but then she just does something awful again, and we get like annoyed, and like it's like they noticed that her randomly turning good at the end of season 5, it was just out of nowhere and made no sense, and just have her be good slowly. Where Bluebears Fly feels like a natural progression of her character arc as she's destroyed her magic, which is what made her her for so long. That is really, really good drama. Really, really good drama. Zelina is a great character this season, and I bet you wouldn't imagine me saying that if you watched the last 2 videos. So I don't think she's fully redeemed herself, but I also don't think Regina, Hook, or Rumple have. So it still has that same problem. And, well, we'll talk about this. Well, I don't even know if I'm doing the video, but she doesn't really get better in the Hyperion Heights spin-off. But I don't know if I'll talk about that, because I don't know if I'm doing a video on that. But yeah, basically. Well, I've always had mixed feelings on Belle as a character, that she's always defined by Rumple. So they see him, and she's not really treated like a main character half the time. They seem to have changed that a little bit with her interactions with Hook in the first half, which I kind of like their friendship, to be honest. At least it starts off pretty well. Probably one of the better things for Hook's cap, but it doesn't really last very long. And there's kind of been slivers of it before. It's been a bit, but that's not really there in the second half. Also, I liked her escaping Rumble for a long period of time. We kind of had that before with season 4, but we didn't feel that way. But I liked her, but I kind of like her of getting away, but it's never really clear if they were back together after that episode. I thought it was clearer that they were back together after Gideon comes back, but no, it's not. And it's not even really clear if they're back together by the ending. Obviously they are, because of what happens next, but it's not really too clear. And like Rumple, I don't know their intent with Belle this season. Rumble is toxic, and half of this season is talking about why it's so toxic, but the second half is trying to push them as a good couple, and there's one line which says, "What do we do to each other?" And like saying that, implying that Belle is just as bad in this relationship as Rumple. No! She is not just as bad as Rumple in the relationship. Rumple is way worse. This isn't something like Emma and Hook where they're both to blame a little bit. Rumple is just, I'm not sure I would say outright abusive, but you can definitely argue it at least gets close to that. Henry does absolutely nothing this season till the finale, which is something I've noticed in the last 2 seasons. Like, the finale is the only time he does something in, like, seasons 4 through 6. I remember him having more of a point this season, but I guess I was wrong. He doesn't do much at all, like last season. So I don't really have much to say about him. And I'm pretty sure we're approaching the 1 hour mark. So I'm already wrong that this video is going to surpass seasons 1 and 2. maybe season 3 also, because I've got a lot to say about the secondary characters too. So now, of course, let's get to the secondary characters. First of all, we're gonna talk about Jekyll and Hyde. Now, I did mostly touch on this earlier, but I really like these two. I really like the arc. There's a few things I didn't mention. Hyde is an intimidating villain, although he's kind of a red herring, and they really do bring this mystery around Jekyll of like hint that he isn't as good as it seems, and it's a bit, and while they are meant for short-term conflict, I guess it does work because of the whole deal in which we get. So I like these guys overall. Let's briefly touch on Cinderella / Ashley Boyd. This character, who has only had one major appearance in the past, and I thought on my first viewing that she hadn't appeared since season 1 in general, but she made a very quick cameo in season 4, which I didn't even notice on my second viewing. She was an interesting character to them, and they just noticed they did nothing with her, so they want to give a minor character an ending, but I'm not sure if anyone wanted this, because she isn't like Ruby, where she was a main character who we didn't know what happened to, or Mulan, in which she was a minor character who people thought she had a lot of potential, and again, just disappeared from the show. So I don't really know anyone that was asking for a later story for her. I could be wrong. There could be like Ashley Boyd super fans in the comments getting angry at me. The story isn't even that great anyways. Just a generic ugly stepsister was actually a good story. It doesn't really make that much sense because it says she has a stepmother and stepsister they never talk to. Then again, she was cursed at the time, so it could be just she had different stepmother and stepsisters. But it's kind of random that she had the same. I don't know. She's just a weird addition, and her episode is just a little. I want to briefly touch on Archie. Now, the last time I talked about this guy was in season 2. That's because since then, he hasn't really done much. In season 3, it was just kind of a regular therapist guy. He didn't really do much, he was just a random Storybrooke resident. But he appeared in a decent amount of that season, I guess. In season 4, he made one appearance. In season 5, Jiminy Cricket made one appearance, which, again, I didn't even notice on my first viewing. But here, it's like they knew, it's like Raphael Sbarge wanted more time, because he does a whole lot this season, like, people in this season finally noticed they need therapy, so everyone is going to Archie for help. And he's honestly way better than he's ever been. He feels like a stronger character here. He feels like he's got a lot to do. And like, people really just disguise as Archie a lot, don't they? Like, really, man. Really. Now, let's talk about Captain Nemo and Liam. I'm going to talk to them both together because, well, doesn't matter. Captain Nemo is from something I've never seen before. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I've never read that, and I know absolutely nothing about that other than how it's portrayed here. I did do any research, as I don't think it's needed to. If there's any information I need to know, just put it down in the comments, because it's interesting that they integrate this story in. It's a famous story, so it's fine. It's fine, I guess. But the problem with them is, it's just not compelling. Apparently, even if they picked like a random point to do this, where Captain Nemo was trying to teach Hook redemption, it doesn't really work because he doesn't want, because he hasn't considered like giving a just revenge. It's just boring and doesn't add much, and it's just like, hey, Hook stopping his redemption arc. This story's really not interesting at all. And then we have Aladdin and Jasmine, which are okay. I kind of like what they do with Aladdin here, of how he and Jasmine are, of how he becomes the savior, but he rejects it. I like that Aladdin and Jasmine were never actually together in this universe. I like how Aladdin was in Storybrooke the whole time. I even like Jasmine disguising as a teacher, although it doesn't really do much for the plot. I do like most of it. They're not super interesting, but I like them for what they are. Aladdin feels like a weird choice of this. I don't really think the ending is great too. We honestly didn't need to bring them back for this, and it's just Jasmine going through a character arc now, which Aladdin kind of went through, so they kind of have the exact same character arc where they ruined Agrabah and want to redeem. They kind of have the exact same character arc, but it's kind of treating them as different. So these characters do have issues, but I primarily like them, I guess. I don't know. Oh, I haven't talked about the Serum Queen. She's okay. I don't really think I need to touch much because I've talked about her throughout the plot section, which is probably why I forgot to talk about her until now, because, well, feels like I already talked about her, and I did. Well, the Count of Monte Cristo got his own episode, but I don't really think I need to talk about him. Okay, I talked about Ashley. I don't want to talk about another nobody character. Now, this one, the Serum Queen, is kind of the main villain, the main thing they have to fight. It's kind of different to see different facets of a personality, like evil Regina being the villain. I would have liked it more if, like, Regina basically then became evil. Like, something affected her. But then again, then we wouldn't get, because, like, the banter between Regina and the other self, I don't think is good enough. I like how he set her up, but she's really just a boring villain, to be honest. She's intimidating enough, but all she is like evil Regina, which we've already seen in flashbacks and season 1, I guess. Just looked a lot different than this. All in all, not that great. Wish Robin is dumb. As I said before, at least I think I said before, Robin, this Wish Robin, he was all makes no sense. If the divergent point was, really they defeated Regina before she cast the curse, then why is Robin just him? Just this guy. Because Robin was a noble thief before this. Also, we never actually get an explanation to why he has an age. We never get an explanation fully for, like, most of this season. I honestly don't like it that much. It just doesn't interest me. This storyline makes Regina act like an idiot. Wish Robin isn't an interesting character. Although he might be more interesting than the Robin we got before. The storyline is short and doesn't really do anything. Honestly, this season is loaded with more filler than I thought. I don't know how many characters I've had to talk about here which don't really have any point in the plot. Should have only talked about like 4 characters here. I'm making this segment way too long. Okay, now let's talk about Gideon. Gideon, I don't think is a bad character. He is, well, strange and just trapped in his own world for most of it. He doesn't really do much. Well, he does do a lot for a plot, obviously, but it's not him. We only really see him mind controlled, and again, he just turns into a baby at the end. It feels like a character arc didn't actually happen. He's because of how he turned into a baby at the end, and because for most of the season he was fucking mind controlled. Actually, now that I think about it, him turning into a baby kind of cheapens the rest of the season. It's just an inconclusive ending, and it just seems like this character, well, they had a plan for him, but they didn't fully know what to do with him. Now there's the Black Fairy, which, despite my complaining about her early in the review, I don't actually think is that bad a villain. She is very well acted and intimidating, unlike King Arthur, and she actually has a motivation, unlike characters like Tamara. The problem with her is her motivation doesn't really make much sense. So she wants to protect Rumpel. But she doesn't actually want to protect Rumpel, she just wants power. But why does she want power? Well, she wants power to protect Rumpel. What? What? Okay, so it's just very circular motivation. Now, why does she want to destroy all the realms and make Emma not believe and cast this random curse which doesn't even need a heart or whatever? Why? I don't know! Because plot! I guess it might be because she's scared Emma will kill her, but why is this your way of doing it then? Just kill Emma. You can do that, you're very powerful, but then again, she thinks the person in the final battle is her, even though, well, she saw it begin. I kind of like the comparison where, like, both of Rumpel's parents, like, Pan was incredibly neglectful, while Fiona was incredibly overprotective. That is fun. And again, she is pretty well acted and intimidating. So, she's not awful, but oh my god, the series has much better villains. So, that was season 6 of Once Upon a Time. In my opinion, not the best end, but I do overall think this season is okay. I guess a solid 6 out of 10. Why not? It's okay, I guess, and it has some major downs, but also some major ups. Overall, I think it's a big improvement from the last 2 seasons we've had. I know a lot of people hate it, but I have lukewarm opinions on it. So, as season 6 was definitely the final season, it is not only the end of this video, but the end of my season reviews. So if you liked this video, please give it a like, and if you disliked it, please press the dislike button or leave a hate comment. I mean, because the end of the series, there's nothing more to talk about, is there? Okay, no more jokes. No more pretending it's something else. It's time to talk about Season 7.